Now, the NBA was rocked late last week after more than 30 people were arrested in two separate investigations into illegal gambling. And among those arrested were at least three high-profile people in the league.
Now, Portland Trail Blazers head coach Chauncey Billups was arrested for his alleged role in an illegal scheme to rig illegal poker games with ties to the mafia, while current Miami Heat guard Terry Rozier and former Cleveland Cavaliers player and assistant coach Damon Jones were both arrested on sports betting conspiracy charges.
The arrest has sparked renewed interest in regulating sports gambling on the Hill, especially on propositional bets, wagers gamblers can make on player statistics. Those kinds of bets were at the heart of the betting conspiracy that allegedly involved Rozier, where insiders would allegedly trade information about players in order to help others win and then take some of those profits.
Now, in response to the scandal, Democrats on the Hill have slammed the 2018 Supreme Court decision that overturned a federal law prohibiting sports betting outside of Nevada. Senator Richard Blumenthal took to X last week, writing, quote, "These troubling indictments come as no surprise when we have allowed the betting industry to corrupt sports, becoming more entrenched in every aspect of the game without meaningful national guardrails to protect fans and victims of gambling addiction." And Senator Dick Durbin called for action from Congress in a statement saying Congress, states, and sports leagues must all work to maintain the integrity of sports and prevent future sports betting scandals after the Supreme Court struck down common sense federal law.
Meanwhile, Republicans actually seem to be on board with what Democrats are selling there in terms of regulation. Here's President Trump's reaction to Thursday's arrests.
Have you seen this NBA gambling investigation?
Yeah, terrible.
What do you think about it?
What do I think? I think it's very bad. I think it's terrible.
And Republican Representative Michael Baumgartner said that he was, quote, disappointed but not surprised by the arrest, telling the Washington Post, quote, "The world of prop bets has opened up a lot of potential for illegal activity and issues that can threaten the games." However, Baumgartner did clarify he was not advocating for a ban on prop betting and that such a ban would be unlikely to pass through Congress anyway. And I certainly hope it would be unlikely to pass through Congress. This is an interesting story. It combines, frankly, two things I have not particular interest in myself. So I'm trying to understand a phenomenon I am not involved in whatsoever. Those two things being basketball, which is not a sport I take much interest in, and gambling, which is not something that appeals to me whatsoever. I go to the casino every now and then.
Spend $50
and
maximum.
It's just not enjoyable for me
to lose at all.
It doesn't speak to me. I'm not someone who lives free of vice, but this is not a vice that appeals to me, whatever. Now, I know that there are some very addicted people,
yes,
and that the way that the sports betting industry has moved, it makes it very unhealthy for the minority of people who gamble very compulsively.
Right.
But I'm going to be a really ideological libertarian here and say, why is it my problem and why should I be prohibited, even though I don't really care to gamble? But theoretically, if I wanted to go out and gamble, why should I be stopped from making wagers because there are some people who can't control themselves? Well, maybe we need to stop those people, and the rest of us should not be in our rights infringed because you spent too much money.
Okay.
Is not my problem. That's my view.
Okay, so we agree on the lack of interest in basketball and gambling. I am a cheap.
You're not a basketball girl either.
Well, I am a basketball by default because my household, Colin, my partner, loves basketball. So I understand this. I got an earful when this happened and people were arrested and indicted.
What does Colin think?
And so I'll be his voice on this show right now. So the NBA commissioner was on ESPN last week and had a direct conversation before this whole incident unfolded, Adam Silver, and he was like, listen, we have very tight guardrails over this entire thing. And then boom, 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 same day or 2 days later, this all blew up in his face because he was on ESPN on the 21st and these indictments came down. And so it's like, is the NBA not doing enough to make sure that they're not so worried about how much money they now make? Because, you know, these ads, if you watch any basketball games, if you watch any sports podcast, they are all sponsored by sports betting apps. And so when you understand the layers, which I do from, you know, the news and reading, is that the addiction level is extremely high. We know that we put addictive tendencies in place the same way with gambling. So if we would have left this in Nevada, people all over the 38 states that have approved this, and DC, then maybe people wouldn't be rampantly gambling. It's like you're going to go to Vegas to gamble or to your casino, not just sitting in your house all day trying to make some money because you're trying to make ends meet. And people are in debt, deep debt because of this. Then I sat down.
Bad. Why is that my problem?
Well, I think that we, as our country, we want to protect people that are extra vulnerable.
For harms to themselves?
Yeah,
No, I don't.
I think that we should. And I sat down with Tom McMillan, who's a former NBA player, and he also was an advisor to the Clinton administration. So he's one of the rare people that has two sides of this, right? He's worked in a government at a high level, and he's also played in the NBA. And he said at the time that he was playing, there was very much just indications, like in the 90s, that sports betting was under the table but getting out of control. He said so the minute that he started seeing them have a relationship with the NBA, he knew it was going to go downhill, because the way that people still have these prop bets, which is what we brought up in the read-in, is that you can bet on anything. And it starts down from college level. So you can bet on if this person misses a shot or this other person is going to make a three-pointer. And you know what happens to kids that are in college that are constantly being bet upon, and this is directly a quote from him, is that they have this mental breakdown where they're kind of overloaded with people kind of saying, are they going to fail? And betting on their failure or winning. And then if they do not make the basket and they let somebody down, they get a million comments. And then we have this wrapped down with all these NIL deals. I mean, they're young people. They're young people who was
it's speech.
I just think
this would be my discomfort with regulating.
Well, this created disaster around so much that used to be fun and recreation, and now it's just creating, I think, this.
It seems like nostalgia for nostalgia's sake. Oh, in the old days it was so much better.
We can't control prop bets.
There was always
I think
gambling.
We should definitely leave it
and the
to
reason,
Nevada.
The reason all these. But why? I mean, the reason all these people were caught is because it is now all this betting is taking place in the open. If the betting is, if this form of betting is illegal, the mafia will have more control over it. It'll just be done secretly. It'll be more illicit. It'll be harder to catch people. The people will still be making prop bets. They just won't do it in this.
Any
system
law in this country, okay, if stuff was legal, it's like, what do you mean? No, people will do it. Do it less if it's illegal.
Right, when you're
people will do it less if you're going to get in trouble for it.
When you're trying to combat
they won't do it more.
Human behavior, like, for instance, prohibition, where we took the noble experiment to ban alcohol, even though alcohol is addictive for a lot of people, has ruinous health effects for people who are addicted to it, is because of car crashes, is tied to more actual deaths. Same thing with cigarettes, but we don't ban cigarettes. We've stigmatized them, but these harmful things that are by far associated with actual death, and in some cases third-party harms because of car crashes and other things, we allow those things. So then how if that's all legal? I mean, this is my issue with prohibition of hard drugs. Marijuana didn't kill anybody, and it was illegal for decades. The harder drugs kill fewer people than alcohol and cigarettes.
But the NBA, I think.
But we're not gonna. My point being, we don't prohibit those things because it's fighting human nature too hard. People want to smoke, they want to drink, they want to gamble. We should seek ways to mitigate the harm that people do to themselves who are in the most addicted categories. I would favor some sort of ban on gambling if you're a degenerate gambler. For degenerate gamblers, some prohibition on them. Maybe the system has to lock for you if you've put in too many bets or whatever. That would be fine. But a broad ban against people who are not otherwise addicted, I don't see how that's justifiable on civil liberties grounds.
Well, I just think that sports betting overall has kind of ruined the game. And I think that now that if you have something like that, the NBA is having a direct relationship with sports betting and making billions of dollars because they put an ad. I mean, it pretty much scrolls at the bottom of the screen throughout the whole game. They are pushing this thing on Americans that they understand is addictive. Now, imagine like the Joe Camel ads, right? That was too much for people that smoke cigarettes. You cannot, people who are vulnerable, kids, you can't tell them it's a camel and a cartoon.
See, I would
buy your
absolutely
cigarette.
allow that.
You would allow Joe Camel to come back? See, that's, I think the government,
the
government should protect people that are vulnerable to, no, I don't like that. I like that Joe Camel is not on ads anymore. I don't want my child to look at Joe Camel box and be like, oh, what's that? I want to get that toy too. No, there needs to be some more guardrails around it. And since the NBA is making so much money from this, at least try to protect people a little more. Maybe it doesn't have to be slapping everybody in the face throughout the entire game or throughout every single piece of content around sports because it's making you billionaires while bankrupting or, deteriorating the lives of so many people that have a gambling addiction.
It's not the government.
And then they have the nerve to put up a commercial
like, it is not the government's responsibility to protect you.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
No, the government's job is not to be our parents, is not to be the church, is not to protect us from or try to inspire us to live better or more fulfilling lives. That's the nanny state. I don't want a nanny state. The government's job is to protect you from harm from other people, is to literally defend you against violence. That's the government's purpose. It's not to make us healthier people.
I think, well, then tell Maha that. What are you saying? Tell Maha that. It is to make us healthier people. They need to do better to protect us all. Yes.
Well, the government should get out of the way. If the government is recommending health policies that are making us bad, they should stop doing that. If they're preventing us or encouraging us or subsidizing or forcing on us products that are unsafe, they should not do any of that. If the government was, this is not a theoretical thing, affirmatively encouraging people to gamble, I would be for shutting it down, as I am for all of the state lotteries, which are an abhorrent example of explicit government encouraging of gambling. The state lotteries should absolutely be done away with. That is the government telling you to gamble, telling disproportionately low-income people that, yeah, go get your scratch-offs or whatever. That is an abomination to me. That's government activity. That should go away. People want to do it privately. That should be their mistake. Why should the government have a monopoly on encouraging people to gamble?
For two people that didn't care about this topic, we had a passionate discussion. I appreciate that.
Next up, Arnold Schwarzenegger is urging California to block Newsom's redistricting efforts. We'll be back right after this.